Good evening, everybody. I'm Greg. I'm your host, and welcome to another episode of Mariner Spirit. I have to apologize because I don't know where Brandon was, and we were just talking and between me and Greg Bakun, and I was going to go through everything here, and I think we're okay, and I'm not going to worry about anything. Uh, Uh, to start the show, like I normally do, I always mention the people that I support, and one of them's Potographs, which is run by Tim Miley, who's a paranormal investigator from up in Wisconsin that does an awesome job. He lost his pup quite a few years ago now, and didn't know if he was going to make it, and tried to come up with a way of going ahead and solving his problem. And he had a picture of himself in his pooch, and thought about it for a minute, and he knew there was a Paracon that weekend, so he made a bunch of pictures up of him and his pup and took him to the Paracon and just started to go ahead and do the what he called photographs. And it became really big, and every year he does, I would say, probably a good 5 or 6 events across the country, and they all involve, speakers, real good speakers. He has a lot of things that go on during the event, and I've been to 2 of them, and they're well worth. They're very, very, very good events, and he has top quality people. Secondly, it's PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer, with Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson from down in Florida. And they do fundraisers across the country. They'll do events, and all the money goes into cancer research and helping the people with that dreaded disease. And that's the second one. And if you ever run into them, be sure to say hi, because they're great people, and they've been doing it for quite some time. Thirdly is the Jessica Petrie Foundation, and that's a research for expecting mothers and families of pregnant women with mental illness. And that, of course, that foundation is run by Howard Petrie, who's the co-owner of PUN and Parallax. So that's that. Author-wise, I do want to mention a few before we get into my guest. One of them is Ron Iacovetti. Then we have Lynn Monet. We have Dr. Rebecca Foster. We have Bruce Holliday, Rex Nielsen, Todd Bates, and Dr. Heather Lee Langdon. And all of these authors are extremely great people. They do a lot of great work. There's a lot of books that have come out recently. The most recent book came out by Rex Nielsen, and that's an adult coloring book. And it's not that it has nudes in it or anything like that. It's because it's real super fine coloring. He has sketched the whole entire inside of the book so that you would be able to go ahead and color it, and it's going to look like a masterpiece. And that's Rex Nielsen. And he's also started his podcast 2 nights ago and does an awesome job with that. And he came back, and now he's coming back to life. So I'm going to go ahead, and without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my guest. This is Mr. Greg Bakun. And Mr. Greg Bakun is the kind of gentleman that some of us really like to go ahead and get to know, because he is a person that doesn't know it, but has taught me quite a bit as far as spirit box work is concerned. He is the man that is Minnesota Ghost Box. Not too long ago, he was still doing some great Sunday night shows that started at 9, 10 o'clock, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Greg, it's awesome having you. It really is. I welcome on to the show. I hope I made a little sense in everything that I said, but
thank you.
Lord only knows sometimes what I say.
Yeah.
But
it sounded good to me. That's all I know.
And you also have been on the Wednesday nights show that we do, and that's When Spirit Connect, and that all those names were changed, but they're basically the same shows that I did before.
Yeah,
only on a different network, and that's under Supernatural Inc.
That's nice. Yep.
And it's a different world, to say the least. So it's great having you here, and if you want to give everybody a little idea of exactly what you're into, what you've been into, and even one of your great hobbies.
Well, I mean, I'm a paranormal investigator, been doing so for a number of years. And as Greg knows, what has always been my focus has been the ITC side of paranormal investigating, intertransmental communication. Spirit Box has been something that has been a big part of my existence for a number of years now. And as Greg alluded to, I used to do a Sunday night, what we called Ghost Box Live, where we would it's basically a mediumship gallery, but using Spirit Box, bringing people's loved ones forward and having them talk and stuff. And the only reason why I don't do it anymore, at least not on a regular basis, is I do a Monday through Friday radio show on KTNF AM 950 called Ghost Box Radio, and that is every night. We bring on a guest, we talk about paranormal. In fact, Greg was kind enough to move this show forward because I needed the time to prep for the show tonight at 10, where we call Friday nights Casual Friday. It's a little bit more relaxed on Fridays, and it is online as well. You can go to Ghost Box Radio with Greg Bakun on Facebook, and you can find the show and find past shows. You can go to ghostboxradio.com and find all the stuff as well. So, Greg, you mentioned that things are changed, things are different, and you and I are in very different places than we were a year ago. And I, if you don't mind me jumping a little bit, I see someone, Nancy, asking what channel in AM or FM. It's KTNF AM 950 in the Twin Cities. And you can also stream it and also watch it on Facebook.
That is really, really something, because you've been involved with my shows for maybe 2 years, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
Mm-hmm.
And they've always been the most awesome out of all the people that I've had as guests. I've always appreciated you and how much you get involved when it comes to the Spirit Box.
Yeah.
And I have other people that'll put the time in too, but you have it. You've been blessed. They gave you the gift, and I know you still use it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you threw it away.
No.
It'll come a time when possibly you'll be going back to it again.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the time that I want to be there to be part of it. You know what I mean? Because that's what it's about. And I know that with these new shows you've done, you have a lot more involved than just the Spirit Box. And I know that some of the things that have been mentioned were always the fact that we go ahead and talk, and I've noticed some stuff on some interesting facts that are on your page now, on your personal page, about the paranormal news that seems to be part of this series of shows, which is an idea that I really want to stop and see it one night and just see, how you handle it, because it's got to be. I think there's only two other people that do it, and they're from the East Coast.
Yeah.
So, how did you come about coming up with that idea?
Which idea though? The
paranormal news, and the questions that you bring into it.
I mean everything. I mean, just everything is like basically how do we make things interesting, right? And how do we engage? And I'm sure you do the same thing too. Is like, what do we do to make it different than what everyone else is doing? Greg, you can say firsthand that when someone says, "Oh, I got a radio show in the paranormal," that covers 1,000 people. Everyone is doing their own take on a show, on some kind of interaction and stuff, and that's what's great about it. What I'm trying to do in general is like, what is it that I can do that makes it interesting, and make it so that we're not treading the same ground as a lot of the other shows are, because it's so easy to do so. And and this isn't for you, trust me, this is not about you, what I'm about to say, but I see so many programs where all it is that people just get on screen and they just talk, like, that they just last minute ask a friend to come on and talk. And there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, if I'm doing 5 nights a week and I'm being paid for it, I need to do something that just hopefully gets people to come back. I don't expect people to come back every night. That's a big commitment, but maybe come back once in a while, or they're like, well, I missed it, but I'm going to listen to it as a podcast. That's the sort of thing that makes it, exciting to me. And it makes me excited because if I have a week of guests and I'm just like, oh, I'm excited for every night, that means I've been a success. Like next week, one of the guests I have on next week is a gentleman talking about how there were thieves trying to steal Lincoln's body from his grave, in 1876 or something like that. I mean, that's why we're going to have him on. He can set me right. But you know what I mean, though? It's that whole thing of like, what interests me? What do I want to talk about? Who do I want to bring on? And then that's where we get some good conversations.
That is awesome when you do something. Yeah, and you come up, you always have guests that are really top notch, and they're all on an individual subject where they're not the same,
right?
Like you said, and I've always found it interesting. I ran across I have a friend from the first group I was in who I had on my show, and he's a filmmaker. And he's done like 4 documentaries already. And the last one that he did was on the circus train.
Yeah.
Of 1918, I think it was. It was a world. It happened down in Gary, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a circus train that back in the day, their wheels and the bearings would go, and the wheel would heat up to the point where it would go ahead and freeze, and you couldn't. And so they had to pull this circus train off the track and go ahead and actually go ahead and try to change that wheel. And they sent one of the engineers down the track, and one of the troop trains was coming down the same track from the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
And he never saw the engineer because he was sleeping at the wheel.
Oh boy.
Of this locomotive, and he ran right into the butt end of this train and ended up killing a whole bunch of people that are now at Showman's Rest outside of Brookfield Zoo.
Oh goodness.
And he did that one, and then he did Diana of the Dunes, which is the Indiana Dunes,
Okay.
which was another one. And I've been involved with the last, I think, 3 or 4 now. And that's exactly the kind of shows that you've been doing too.
Yeah.
And so what, out of the shows that you've done so far, what are the coolest top 2 that you've had?
Oh gosh, there are so many, so many. And so we started the nightly show July 10th. And so from July 10th to now, I'll go back and I'll look, because I obviously log everything. I keep track of everything that I've done. And then I cut them down and I make best of episodes that run over the weekend. So I'm on the radio 7 days a week, basically, which is awesome. And so I look back and I'm just like, God, that was good. That was good. That was good. So 2 that, and you ask me this tomorrow and it might be a completely different answer.
That's okay.
Gary Galka.
Okay.
When I had Gary Galka on talking about the PSP7 Pro and him playing some of those, he played some evidence. And then he said to me, and I have yet to take him up on this, and I hope he still will allow me to. He said to me at the end, he's like, I want to do a live Spirit Box session with you. And that is like, for those who know what I do, I use a PSP7. That is the absolute, what I use. A lot of people use a lot of amazing devices, and I do too, but I keep coming back to this one. And so I really, I love that one. Let's see. I've also, I'm a student of demonology, so there's some really great kind of a demon sort of things. Like last night we replayed The Exorcism of Cindy Sauer, which is pretty incredible. But then your friend and mine, Bishop Christina Rake, we did an episode where we compared the Exorcist, the film, the original film, what the character Regan went through versus what she and her colleagues have seen on exorcisms. And like, because my thought is like, I'm sure that the exorcisms are horrible, but I'm sure Hollywood has really just kind of ramped it up. And what I found in that, and those of you who've been around exorcisms or demonologists and whatnot, that no, we're talking tit for tat, if you will, that we're talking that this stuff is actually pretty on par. In fact, she has told me, and I'm sure she's mentioned to you as well, that there is a that there's been cases where people who are under a demonic influence are not just throwing up bile, but they're throwing up nails, rusty nails. They're throwing up mice. And that's stuff that is just like, this. There's that one. There's Anna Maria Manalo, and her that she was talking about her latest book with Tom Conwell and the Night Visitants. And I have on occasion, I mainly do the show by myself, but on Wednesdays and Fridays, it used to be Thursday and Fridays, have Adam, who helps run the board and takes calls, and he's just like, I'm staying up all night tonight because this is messed up, and he's heavily into this. So it's not like new concepts, but he's just like, no.
I'll tell you what, and everybody that's into the paranormal knows that spirit, whether they're good or bad, can go about making things happen that will either make us happy or scare the living bejesus out of us.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you just mentioned.
Yep.
And that's the kind of thing that when I went ahead and started really to pay close attention to that end of it, it was mostly on the East Coast. And there's a lot that happens there. And you had the young demonologist, now I can't remember his name, His last name starts D. August.
James Anito.
James Anito.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Thank you. And he's on a sort of sabbatical now.
Mm-hmm.
He backed off. He's got a girlfriend and he's got a child, and I know him through Chris Carr and Kristen
Mm-hmm.
Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
and he's he's another one of those ones when you go all the way back to the beginning, and you go back to the Conjuring House, and you talk about the grandparents, the people that started it all, and they were called into that investigation last minute, and before they were there, both of the Johnson brothers were there,
Mm-hmm.
and they had two other people that were helping them. And then right out of the clear blue, in comes the Lawtons.
Yeah.
And both of them, immediately, it was like everybody else had to leave. And it was like, wait a minute, that would be such a beautiful team if
Yeah.
they were all together.
Yeah.
But it didn't turn out that way. And you can see how those camps separated and went their own ways.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't understand, because we're all in this together. Sharing
Yeah.
information isn't something that you have to go ahead and lock up in a safe at night.
No.
To me,
No. I mean, and maybe I'm horribly wrong and naive, but I feel ego plays such a big part in so much that has happened, that is happening. I think territory plays a big part as well. People are very territorial. There's places, there's people who are doing, for example, people who are doing radio shows on paranormal, but they're not going to talk to me because I'm doing one. That sort of thing. There's people, there's people just, in certain areas that don't want to share things because that's their area. They don't want to see people from the outside get in there. People are territorial, and I think and once again, this is just my opinion. You could disagree. Everyone who's watching could disagree. Is that it is so ego driven and so fame driven that it just, people just, the first thing I see some people do when they become a paranormal investigator is that they will create a fan page for themselves, and it'll literally call itself fan page or whatever else, and they expect people to flock to it. And there's I can go further, but I'll get myself in trouble if I do continue on, because it's just everybody. What we're seeing around us, Greg, in the paranormal is just one part of it, even though people think that's everything. People who are doing certain events or running certain groups or streaming services or whatever, they think what they're seeing is everything, and they're only seeing part of it, or they only want people to think they're seeing part of it. And why I say that is because, like my show, it's full of people who love the paranormal, but not in the same level we do, and they're an untapped audience. And that's the sort of thing that there's people, they rather be, so there seems like people are rather be boosted by a small group, opposed to seeing the bigger picture and trying to get more education out there, if that makes sense.
yes, it does. That's for sure.
Not to be a downer, Greg.
No, that's fine. There was a gentleman in here, and I'm just trying to find him again. Okay, now that brought up the fact that you are a very experienced grillmeister.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I like to grill. I mean, the pictures I put out there are the ones that look okay. You don't see the
burnt
carnage.
one.
Yeah, you don't see the carnage of what might have been, and the poor animal that died for no good reason. No, I generally I've gotten better with everything we do, right, Greg? Practice makes perfect, or actually,
Right.
makes it better. I love doing it. I mean, my mom used to grill a lot, and it kind of came to a point of like, if I want to eat good food, I need to learn how to cook and not go out, so I do love to grill. And I saw that comments from Steve, and yeah,
Okay.
Steve, I thank you. Yeah, that was, I love it. I was going to grill tonight, but timing just didn't work out. I stayed at the station late. I knew we had this going on. Then I had my show afterwards because I was going to do it's Chicken Wing Friday over here, Greg. We do chicken wings, I grill chicken wings every week. And it might be even a little bit harsher where you are, but the weather is so mild over here that it's like, yeah, it's 40 degrees.
Time to go ahead and heat that puppy up.
Yeah, right. I mean, and I only use charcoal. Everything's charcoal, so let's just get a hole in the ozone layer because of me and my.
Have you ever had any thoughts of getting a smoker?
I do have a smoker. I have one, and it's I'm. It takes a long time, which you're like, duh. But that's the thing. Now, when I used to work at the advertising agency Carmichael Lynch in downtown Minneapolis, I started an initiative to get a smoker for the roof of the building. The roof is this big, flat, beautiful space, and so we got a small what is it, it's from Kansas City, a Yoder smoker.
Okay.
And then we outgrew that one. We got a bigger one that's like the tank and then the tower.
Okay.
We were able, Greg, and I'm not, because we would do this for agency events. We would be able to smoke about 24 racks of ribs at once, and we have.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's making me hungry right now.
Yeah, no, and I mean the food was okay. I'm not going to. I mean, it was very smoke heavy, which you're like, well, it's a smoker, but I think that it was, to me, it was very, very strong, and I think I prefer grilling over smoking personally. Some things, though, like good fish being smoked, or do a cold smoke on some cheese. That's always good.
I like to do pretty much. I do turkeys for Christmas.
Oh, I bet that's amazing.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
Because that's the only way I have ever had a turkey where the meat falls right off the bone. Where it's not it, and it's juicy and everything else. We're gonna take just a minute. I want to mention everybody that's in the room there, if that's okay.
Yeah,
we got Carol Garcia, Sydney Reyes, Tracy Rizzo, Julie Ann Guthrie Smolson, Nancy Noonan Kelly. She's up by you up in Minnesota.
I see that. She apparently, Dave Noonan worked for Carmichael Lynch. And just to answer her question, no, I don't know. I didn't know who that was, though I had been there for 14 years before we both decided that we didn't want to be in a relationship anymore. So that's kind of how that ended.
Okay, then we got Robin Swanson.
Hi, Robin.
We got Chris Stant, Steve Gilbert, Julianne again, Anne Marie Young, who's been around. She's a great friend. Kimmy Corpse. A lot of these people are people from the Wraith Hunters.
Nice.
In Texas. And you got Cluers, and that's Rob and Cheryl from across the street from me.
Oh.
Which is pretty cool when they come on. And we've got, who else do we got here? I should have took that Evelyn Woods speed reading course for late nights when my eyes don't work right. But anyway, that's thank you all for being here. So now I went ahead and I started thinking about those other methods of ITC. And for some people out here that don't really know what it is, could you tell the people what it is and mention, say, 3 or 4 different devices that are used part of ITC?
Well, I mean, ITC is intertransmental communication. So basically, it is anything that is a electronic device that gives some sort of response, spirit response that we consider to be very interesting. I mean, obviously, we talk about Spirit Box quite a bit, and within Spirit Box, there are a number of different types of Spirit Boxes themselves. I talk about the SB7, which is a mass-produced version that Gary Galka had put together. But there's also what we call the Shack Hacks, which is taking radios from the 90s and converting them to become spirit boxes, mainly by debilitating the way that you can when you do a scan on a radio, that they will stop at a station. Taking away that ability to stop at stations, it becomes a spirit box, because the whole purpose of it is to keep a continuous run going up and down the dials. But even then, there's devices like there's the apps that are using like echo technology, like the Echo Box, the Phasma Box. People will have different opinions on apps, but I've had Daniel Roberg on my show for the Echo Box, and it's just like this is a very valid way of doing things. And the folks who are doing the IDF stuff, that it's becoming, it's like, it feels like that, when Sumter started the kind of the spirit box technology, I feel like that's just the ground layer, and that there's so much more that is kind of evolving from that. But the thing is myself personally, I feel like that I kind of am still on the ground floor on it, because I don't go a lot of different directions with it. I stay pretty constant, and I think that's because in my opinion, I get some really decent responses.
Right.
So I'm happy with what I'm getting. Also, and I think I don't know what you think of it. I mean, EVPs are part of ITC. So if you're using a digital, you're getting a digital recorder and you're getting an EVP. I mean, people call responses from Spirit Box EVPs. If your toaster starts talking to you, that's ITC. There's also that method of like using a television that can still pick up static, and that you can do kind of a sweep with stations going through the TV, and you might be able to get some kind of picture from it, like a more of like a shadow, sort of thing. I mean, so there's a lot of things, and that's the cool thing about it. I mean, when I got into it, I don't know about you, Greg, but when I got into it, I mean, it seemed not limited because it was all exciting and new, but it was very contained. Now there's so many people out there who are doing and trying different things, and not afraid to fail, not afraid to try things that are unconventional, and try to, the idea always is, can we get a better response from spirit, and can we get a more continuous conversation, I think. And just because you might have missed her, Joanne Stewart, we got to say hi to Joanne as well.
Yes, I know. I was just gonna.
I beat
when
you.
got
I'm like backseat hosting you, and that's not a good thing. I
Hey,
apologize.
no, I was gonna say it as soon as you got done, because Joanne Stewart is a great lady,
Mm-hmm.
and she's from up there. She's from up in Canada.
Canada.
So
Yeah.
that's the good part,
Mm-hmm.
the Canada part. No, Joanne's really a lovely lady.
Yes.
I'm glad that she's a big fan of yours.
She's been
And
very, very, very supportive for sure. Yep.
yep, there's a lot of them that are still around in the circles. There's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 or 4 that always paid. We're always on your show.
Yep.
And that's Monday nights, and that's on the on our Psychics Unite
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
meeting. So And
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just gonna say, and I really do want to do the spirit box stuff on a more regular basis again. I mean, you know what it's like, Greg. You know, I think as empaths, mediums, whatever we want to call ourselves, you know, there's that pull. There's that pull to like we want to do something. And the last time I've done like a gallery, like a ghost box live, we were at the Grant House, and I think it was November,
Right.
and then I did this very powerful crossing over section, to the point that there were people in the basement investigating, and they called somebody up on the floor watching me do my thing, and they're like, like are you guys like crossing spirits over, because we can feel it down here. You know, it was very powerful, and it was just really just, you know, and that's what I miss, because that's the best part, is when you're able to help someone, and that someone could also be spirit who needs a little guidance to get to where they need to be.
My laugh was meant in the happiness
Oh yeah,
of being
absolutely.
able to cross people over.
Absolutely. No, I totally saw. Yeah, I totally know what you meant, and it's absurd in a way, because it's like, wow. I mean, we really were kind of going at it. We were really making it happen, and you know, I had a room full of people, because as you know, I normally do it just in a room by myself, but we had other people that we could see. And even though I do ask in the shows, like, we need your, you know, your intention, not your energy, and what I was able to harness their energy right then and there, and it's more of intention, it's not energy, and help like there's loads of people cross over.
I know when I go ahead and think about how I have my show starting out,
Mm-hmm.
and it involves the Prairie St. Michael, and then it goes from there. Well, you've been there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really interesting to know that when that starts to happen, that we all go back to it,
Yeah.
and because that's our true love. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, as far as crossing over is concerned, I've had one. You have to excuse the
You got a live
Margie.
studio audience.
Margie.
Margie doesn't care.
No, that's one of my sons with her, so they're checking something out. But anyway, that was the most important part,
Yeah.
I think. And when I caught on, or when I first started, I wanted to keep it going.
Yeah.
And it was because at where I was at on my stage of the game was everybody was down. Well, when we were in Pennsylvania, and we
Mm-hmm.
were at Gettysburg, and I was halfway down that hill, and I think I told you that story where the spirits came out to me.
Yeah.
All the way up at the top. They were all arguing with a spirit box. It was a live spirit box session, and I could hear them plain as day, about 120, probably 150 yards down,
Mm-hmm.
as plain as day how sound carries. And I could hear them arguing, and who was running the box would say it just said dead, or oh no, it didn't, it said head.
Oh,
And then
okay.
they would go back and forth like this.
Yeah.
No, and oh, he was wounded. No, he was killed. And this kind of stuff. And you just really start to think about it and say, is this what I want to do?
Yeah.
And it's no, because there should be no actual arguing. It's perception.
Mm-hmm. No, you know, I was thinking about it when you're mentioning it. I had been doing, up until I stopped around the time I had COVID last year, and I had I had been doing these live things, these live broadcasts. I realized, for 8 years, in some form. I've been doing the spirit box session live, you know, for about 8 years. Sometimes I'd go a few months without doing it and come back. And when I first started doing it, I wouldn't put myself on camera, because I was too shy, and I was too insecure about what I was even trying to do. Because I mean, so about 3 years, never saw me. You'd hear me, and you'd see a spirit box, or I'd have some equipment set up, But what became the norm for me, which would be me sitting with the blinds behind me, and then another table that had like the other equipment on there, that was, so to speak, relatively new, because it is a lot to put yourself out there and do a spirit box session. I think almost more than anything else, but others will have their own opinion, because it is like you want to be able to make sure people know that you're authentic, and that I see so many people, and I'm not going to name names, but I see so many people who do spirit box that are actually pretty well known, and they'll just have it up to their ear, and they'll be like a private conversation even though you're around, and they'll be like, what's, oh yeah, okay, yep, I heard that, yep, oh, I heard that, yep, okay. And no one else is hearing it as it happens, and they're not recording it, but yet and I'm sorry, I cannot take that as fact. I want to hear the responses. I want to hear something. I want you to hear what I'm hearing, because otherwise, if you don't, then what's the purpose of doing it?
We all have our, how could you say, people that we look up to historically.
Yeah.
When it comes to a machine like a spirit box, and we go to the best source we got, and we ask our questions, and then we find out maybe 2 or 3 years later that wasn't necessarily the case. Now the point in question was, I had read about the double blind ghost box. And then I had talked to Tim Woolworth for probably 2 hours.
Yep.
At one of the Tim Miley's events. And I said, well, what is it? Because, we have our machine, and we have our headphones, and we have our blinders. But if we did it like that, and then it was like you have to incorporate a recorder into it. And I said, well, I've never really seen that done myself, because I don't know how many different connections you'd have to be able to feed the machine into your headphones and into the recorder at the same time, and it actually feeds what you're hearing in your ears into the recorder too.
Yeah.
So that is a very interesting way of working it, and at the same time, I know I am just homeschooled. There's a lot of people that have gone ahead and they've gone to school for this kind of thing. I don't necessarily agree with that idea, because it's all from the heart. It's not from a school book.
No.
You know what I mean? And so the last thing that I really wanted to mention to you and ask you about is your love of the British TV and Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So why don't you let everybody know about how big of a historian you are when it comes to Doctor Who?
How big of a weirdo I am?
No, I didn't say weirdo. I said historian.
I mean, I've been watching that show since 1984, and it's been, it's just, my background is television. I worked on television and film, and now radio, as it happens, and that was so to me, Doctor Who has always been kind of the history of television, because it ran for so long that it kind of changed with the way that television has changed over the years. And when it comes to British television, I don't know what it was, but it was something that really, I like the way it was made. I've always been a fan of the United Kingdom. And there is stuff that I found very interesting, like, for example, that there are what we call missing episodes of everything, including Nancy, including Benny Hill, and that there are missing like shows have been erased, destroyed, whatever. And I mean, this it happens in the US as well, but in the UK it's just something that really caught my attention. I got involved with a group in the UK called Kaleidoscope, that there's a British television heritage organization. And even though I have not returned any missing Doctor Who per se, I have been involved with returning missing British television, to like the BBC, to ITV, which is the other network in the UK that's not BBC. And so that's something that I really found that really was dear to my heart. And so, I mean, I have two loves really, and that's paranormal, because paranormal for you and I is not a hobby; it's a lifestyle. This is how we live. My job in the paranormal is not to just go to places and investigate. My job is to help people with what they need and help spirits with what they need as well. And I know it's the same for you as well, Greg.
Right.
So but British television, and so I do the picture you posted for tonight's program was me in front of a VHS library I had of Doctor Who videos, because I'm very retro in a lot of ways, and I do videos on YouTube. My British television handle is From the Archive. Started off as a blog, it was a podcast, it is a range of DVDs in the UK, and it's also a video series I'm doing for the last 5 years, and it focuses on one Doctor Who story, the history of the VHS release. Also, I include history of how it ran in the US, like through the PBS stations. It's those are unique stories that they get lost. No one talks about. And I have a lot of recordings, so I share what I have. And it's very niche. Everything I do is very niche. Nothing is mainstream about me. So, it's like if I was looking to get like lots of people to follow me, then I'm picking the wrong subjects to do it with. This is stuff that's close to my heart.
That's the best thing you could possibly say, because I know how much in love you were with Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am.
And ever since probably, I think it was the third show I ever watched on Sunday night with you, you had mentioned that for some reason.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you why, but I can remember it was like, holy cow, he's into Doctor Who.
Very much
not
so.
not that I'm into Doctor Who,
no,
because I'm not, but
no.
But,
and it's even still, after all these years, it's my own version of PTSD, because when I got into it in the 80s, it was it's not popular. It's a lot more popular now than it's ever been before. It's huge in a lot of ways, but when I was there, that was just the stuff that you get beat up over when you say you're a Doctor Who fan,
Well, you got to remember that all we had back then were the television.
Yeah.
We didn't have anything else. So that
yeah.
Who I have a TARDIS tattoo. Lee Warner says.
Oh, that's great.
What's a TARDIS tattoo?
So TARDIS, and I think you probably know what we're talking about here, is the Doctor travels in a what's called a blue police box. It's a blue box, and if you ever seen anything Doctor Who wise, you'll probably have seen that. That's called a TARDIS. And
I thought he traveled in a phone booth.
It's the people call it phone booth, but it's actually a police box, and it was a very unique British thing from the 1920s up until about the mid 70s or late 60s, but it stayed as part of Doctor Who. Matter of fact, the Metropolitan Police created the police box, but the BBC bought the rights to the image of the police box in the 80s, because it's really just a Doctor Who thing.
Boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, cosplay
has
changed fandom quite a lot. Linda Judd said
it has. And the thing about cosplay that is really cool, I mean, people used to always dress up in costumes, but there's a lot of uniqueness in cosplay now. For example, each Doctor has his own, when it's a man, because sometimes it's a woman, has his own very unique costume. But there's been, like, one of my favorite things is seeing women reimagining those costumes to be dresses. and and vice versa, and this is the way that people take something established and reimagine it has always been like really cool to me, because it's like this is imagination, and this is really fun, and people are using their skills to do really creative things. So yeah, I love that.
That's awesome. That's and that library you got is just crazy.
It is. And I mean, I collect. I have thousands upon thousands of British television programs. I have probably more than anyone else in the US, probably more than some people, a lot of people in the UK who are into this as well. Well, the guy who runs Kaleidoscope, who knows a lot about British television, he often thinks that I know more than some of the people who are really very knowledgeable of it out in UK. So yeah, I mean, I love it all. I absolutely love it all.
You're from the wrong side of the pond.
Well, you got to wonder if a past life, maybe I was over in the UK,
Yeah.
I don't know.
You got to start doing those past life regressions.
The reason why I don't, because I don't want to be disappointed by what I hear. You know what I mean? Like all these years I thought, well, maybe I have a little bit of England in me or something, and find out that, I was actually a moon rock or something, and
Or you lost your head
yeah, right. Well,
up on the
sometimes
scaffold.
I think I have, yeah.
Fall Woody Towers.
Faulty Towers. It's probably one of the, and I think you'd really enjoy it. It was original first season was in 76, the second in 79. Have you ever heard of John Cleese, Greg?
Yeah.
So it was a John Cleese series, and it is hilarious. It's only 12 episodes long, and it is considered not only one of the finest British comedy series of all time, it's considered one of the best sitcom series of absolutely all time, and it's very, very, very funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
The people that I mentioned earlier that I couldn't think of their names. It's Ken DaCosta and George Lopez,
Mm.
and they do a show once a week from out. I want to say and I'll get shot for this.
Mm.
I think it's in the Connecticut area,
Mm.
and George Lopez is a medium, and he is an amazing person. And the story I'm not going to tell now, but it's really it's something that I want to share with you. But I know you have to get going because you have to get over there and everything, right?
I'm actually doing it from here tonight.
Oh, you're there, so
Yeah.
it doesn't make any difference if we
If
go
we
a couple extra minutes.
if you wanted to, and it's your show, you can end it whenever you want. I'm good till 9:30. So not that
Okay.
you're like 9:30. That's great. So
That's the best part about it.
that's
I
great.
think.
Yeah, 9:30. I was hoping to get done early tonight.
No, it's never going to happen.
Can I just say something real fast?
Sure.
Who was it that asked? When I appreciate it. Carol asked, how is Linus? Linus is doing very, very well. After my ex-wife's crap had finally got jettisoned from this house, I've been cleaning up parts of the house where he can run around much more. He's a very happy little boy right now, and he is. When I'm in this room, and this is more of a new part. I haven't been doing it from this room for very often. I do shut the doors so he doesn't bother, because like when I'm doing the radio show, for example, I cannot have him nipping at my shins with his mouth, or just kind of getting on his hinds to put his claws in me, because he'll do that if I'm talking and it's not to him. He gets very upset. He gets very jealous. So it's like I can't have him. What if I could see him through the door? No, I can't see him over there. But
So are you at the house at your house now?
I'm in my house. Yeah.
Okay, so this is your new studio.
This used to be Jolene, my ex-wife's. This was her office, and even though she hadn't been here in 11 years, thank God, she was a hoarder. I think still is, and so this room was full of stuff, and there's still quite a bit in here. But once she cleaned it out, because she actually lives in Connecticut, as it happens. Once she cleaned it out, I thought, well, this would be a great place to start doing some stuff. And so I kind of repurposed this as kind of a studio sort of thing, but I need to put some pads or foam on some of these walls to absorb the sound a little bit more. So
I think when you mentioned that about Carol, that I was on the same page, because I was going to ask you to bring Linus in so everybody know
that he's still alive
again. And you haven't tattooed him to the wall somewhere.
No, and I don't think he might be laying. Oh, there he is. He's laying on the ground. He's because I have French doors that have glass on them, and he just if we're going to go a little bit longer, I can open words and see if he wants to come in, and we can.
I don't want you to get bit and torn apart.
Well, no, I mean, I just can't do it during the radio show. That's really what
Carol Garcia actually has been getting bit by her cat.
Oh yeah,
and she got bit right here in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow! I'll tell you,
they are really something. Let me open the door real fast. I don't know if he'll come in, but
see if it'd be worth it because of all these people.
Come in.
For all those people that are thinking I'm crazy. Consciousness of paper. Very nice, Julianne. I like that. Yes. Here's Linus.
Here we are.
Here we go.
Here Linus. We are.
We finally get to see Linus again.
How long has it been, him in a while, have you?
No. How long has it been, buddy?
Just to prove he's still alive.
Linda Morrison's here now.
And
she said, cats are my favorite. Before I do that, I want to do this one. So I saw that the U.S. has a UFO that they call a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside.
I didn't know that. Should we go?
Brilliant. That is brilliant.
Because he's getting restless, isn't he?
Yes, he's
all right.
Oh God, you can see it in his eyes.
Say bye, Linus,
let me go. Let me go.
There you go. Good boy.
Now, as far as your house is concerned,
yeah,
because you did all those shows in your house too, with the spirit box, and we know there were always things that were happening. How has that been since you quit the sessions?
It's been reduced greatly. One of the last ones that I had done had been about a year ago when we brought through alien interaction, and it caused a lot of problems. Trying not to act like that I'm someone who should be wearing a tinfoil hat at the moment. This is what we got was somebody who I believe was actually in my house. And the next day, one of the things that was really troubling to me was that I had a sudden nosebleed that I didn't understand why I would have had that. And so it was that was one of the reasons why I needed to slow down. I've had a couple psychic mediums, one being Shar, who told me also give it a rest for a while, mainly because I was able to contact things that maybe shouldn't have been contacted. And so for a while, for those who don't know, I was doing the Sunday night session, and then I was doing a Tuesday night session, which we called experimental sessions.
Right.
And so to answer Julianne, do you specifically try to make contact with alien beings? Absolutely. Absolutely, I did, and I still do. And with that, I and I'm all for doing a CE5 with getting a tone generator. I have a tone generator and going out in field and doing a CE5. The one thing that I kind of really had come to kind of the epiphany last year, which I'm sure everyone else had known, is that there is absolutely no difference in how you approach reaching out to spirit, reaching out to reaching out to spirit, reaching out to UFOs, and reaching out to Bigfoot. Because we have tried it the same way for all of them, and we've gotten results every single time.
Do you believe they're all interdimensional beings?
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
I know that I saw a video that was on a show, and they were on one side of like a river, and on both sides of the river, the one side it went almost straight up, and they were actually filming this creature as it walked down the shore, and all of a sudden it just faded away.
Absolutely. So, Greg, are you aware of have I told you my Bigfoot story?
Oh, go ahead. That would be great.
I was with Shar. I was with Denise and Ernie Pack. And we were at Fort Duffield in June of last year, early part of June. And so Fort Duffield is an earthen fort that was used in the Civil War. Did not see any war action. But so one side of it is the earthen fort. It kind of is like almost like a horseshoe. And the other side is a memorial that kind of slopes down a hill, and there are trees at the bottom. And it's away from a lot of stuff. So it's not like people are coming on to the property or anything. And it buds up to Fort Knox. So we were there, and we were all just trying to, we're at the top of this hill on the memorial side. And we're all just like, we were hoping that we could see something. And out of nowhere, and it was standing in a line was myself, Shar, Denise, and Ernie. And all of a sudden, this bipedal creature down the hill just walks out from the trees into the opening. And its fur is being highlighted by the moon. And all of us at once, we're not even looking at each other or anything, we're all like, look at that. And it was truly remarkable. We went down there to look for it because that's what we do, I guess. And there wasn't anything there. But then, like, Shar and I would be walking back up the hill, and there's a line of trees with us that we're walking alongside. And every time we moved, something was moving on the other side of the trees. When we stopped, it stopped. And when we started up again, That's the only time I felt really pretty kind of worried, to be honest, because that is something. We didn't see any eye shine there that night. But then we were at the fort, one of the buildings in the fort, and we were talking. It was probably like 1:30, 2 in the morning. Denise, Ernie, Shar, and myself. And we hear this scream, like this animal cry. I've never heard anything like that in my life. So that was incredible. Then the next night we went to a location that they asked that we don't talk about. Like, we don't say where it's located, but we went with some other people, like Greg Kos we went with.
Okay.
And we were in the forest, and his approach to it is not the approach of, like, say, the people from Finding Bigfoot. He is talking to them the way that we would talk to trying to bring out a spirit, like, hey, we're here, come to us, we're your friends, sort of thing. And suddenly, the back of my head, I get this, like a hand does this to me and does that. And I immediately look, and Brad Webb was there, and he's like, what's wrong? And he's the only person around me. He's to my right. the hand was to my left, and he I'm looking, he's like, what are you looking for? I said, did you just touch me? And he's like, no. And I'm looking around to see if like there was a branch that I didn't account for. Like I knew it was clear around me, but maybe I was wrong. No, there's nothing there. Something touched me. And then the rest of the night, something affected Ernie pretty bad right after that. Like it actually brought him to his knees. And I just probably, I don't think it was meant to be nasty or anything. I think it was just meant to be, maybe it misjudged what a weakling Ernie Pack is, and that he could barely stand up on his own when he's not being attacked by a Bigfoot. So that's probably what that was.
It was probably a better idea just to sacrifice him.
Yeah, right. He was doing everyone he was trying to do everyone a favor, but he was a little bit too resilient, I guess. And so we had that. Then a lot of eye shine. I was using Spirit Box to try to reach out to them, and I was getting answers. Like I was using a lot of like positive affirmations, like "we love you," and we'd get back "I love you," and it was just amazing. My bro, he said he's thinking he's much older. Dan Joppa was still there. Yep, Dan was there when I started, and I was there in 2008 when I started over at Carmichael Lynch.
The first Max.
Yep.
How about that?
Yep, absolutely.
That's like when they still had buffaloes. Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, the agency back then was a lot different than the agency now, and I miss the days back then. I'll just leave it at that, I guess. But it's and we had they did this thing called the giving stump, and there was a stump. Oh, I got pictures for you of bent trees that formed a like a structure. Yeah. That they were all bent into place. The giving stump, gifting, I think it's gifting stump. There was a lot of like snacks for them on there. And when we came back after about 2 hours, like we had like a granola bar that was in a wrapper, and it was no longer in the wrapper, but the wrapper wasn't ripped open. It looked like someone took like a sharp nail or something and just slid it open and took out what they needed and put the wrapper back.
Holy cow.
And the thing is that there were all sorts of like raccoons and stuff, because we had chips and stuff in our like our general area where we just kind of had our snacks. And the raccoons came and they tore everything apart. And where the gifting stump was not much further from that. So it's, they could have went back there, but it almost seemed like there was a balance. Like all the animals knew what they're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? Right. So, yeah. I mean, honestly, Nancy, my belief is that, first of all, yes, because we have used what we've learned, and we've gone to places, we've called for them, and every single time we're getting tree knocks, we're getting a scream, we're getting some sort of sighting of some kind. Yes.
That is awesome. I know,
especially Shar has been.
I wanted to say, do me a favor and say hello to her for me.
I will, absolutely.
Please, because I haven't seen her for a while. Because I've been busy too. So
yeah.
And she is one of those ladies that I'll never forget.
She's doing some amazing things right now. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the reason my spirit boxes are more important to me today is because of what happened when they had a roundtable discussion on the air, and that was with Tony Rathman was one of them, and Austin Maynard.
Yep.
And I asked the question of what happened to us out for our school in Iowa.
Yeah, that's right.
You know that story where they had the ticking happening.
Yep.
And I asked that, and they both looked at each other and sort of started smiling, and they said, "Isn't that what Frank was all about?"
Yeah. because it was.
Yes, exactly. He was the Purple Princess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, that's just when I heard that, it was like, okay, this is why I'm still doing it,
Yeah.
because that's my communication with my guides
Mm-hmm.
and angels and anything else that I have on my side that helps me with them.
Yeah. You know, and one of the things that I you know, and I've told this story many times, and I'm wondering if you want, Greg, we can play the audio of when I because I can pull it up if you're able to share. I don't know if you're able to share or not.
You bring it on here, I'll share it.
And it's the audio, a spirit box session where I had decided that I wanted to reach out to not only Abraham Lincoln, but also to Mary Todd Lincoln. And the thing about that was I first reached out to uh, President Lincoln prior to doing the Ghost Box Live. And by doing so, I just had some flashlights going, and I'm just like, President Lincoln, I'd like to reach out to you tonight. And I went through this whole thing to explain to him what I wanted to do. And I said, can you please turn on the flashlight if that's okay? And it did. And then it turned off. And I'm like, okay. And I said, may I have permission to address Mary Todd Lincoln tonight as well? And the flashlight went back on again. So when we started, the session, I did what I wanted to do, which was show a picture and ask President Lincoln if it was him. And through the spirit box, we get a male voice that says, yes, it is. And the chat starts going crazy. It just goes absolutely crazy. Everyone's so excited, and I just got a little kind of weirded out by that. And because it's just like I got starstruck. So I wanted to talk to Mrs. Lincoln, and I said, Mrs. Lincoln, my question was meant to be, Mrs. Lincoln, when you were living, you spoke to the dead. Now that you're dead, you speak to the living. You're going to hear me say it and mess it up. And I can answer Julianne's question.
That's okay.
In a second, but I can play this real fast. So what you're going to hear is possibly the voice. Well, you're going to hear two voices, but I want to talk about the first one first, and that's possibly the voice of Mary Todd Lincoln.
So that's gonna come in via your link, right?
Well, it's down there now, and you just have to share it to your screen. I think you should see it down there.
Mrs. Lincoln, you spent your entire life reaching out to spirits. Do you talk to other people? Do you talk to other people as a spirit, to other living people? Talk about what?
So
Wow.
you know, that is I mean, there's inflection, there's someone, I think she's exasperated. She's like, what are you talking about? There's another voice though on there, and you're going to hear.
You want me to play it again?
I can play it on this end.
Okay.
Now that I'm up, you're going to hear when you used to speak to the dead. You're going to hear a male voice saying, I know. And we attribute that based on what we had received earlier, that is the voice of Abraham Lincoln. So here it is again.
Mrs. Lincoln, you spent your entire life reaching out to spirits. Do you talk to other people?
Wow.
Do you talk to other people as a spirit, to other living people? Talk about what?
He wasn't too happy with her, was he?
Here's the thing. That's what I thought we've always known. But I read a book. I don't know if you know author Troy Taylor.
Yes, from down in Alton.
Yeah, so he wrote a book about the last days of President Lincoln. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And in it, he talks about that Lincoln actually was using mediums much more than has ever been reported to figure out what moves to make during the Civil War. Like
Wow.
Military moves. Like he had a medium that he always would bring in to get her opinion.
Do you think that had something to do with the fact that he did not trust his generals.
Absolutely, absolutely, and also he was very preconceived. Well, he was very what's the word I'm looking for?
Cognizant.
Well, he was very concerned about his own death. He had a premonition of being laid in state at the White House, and it came true.
I read a fact on one of those out of a book that said that the bed that he was laid in after he was shot was the same room that his assassin would use every time he came to town to work on a play as an actor.
Huh.
It's
That's interesting.
Same room, same bed.
It's interesting. There's also a picture of the insides of the White House, like totally torn out because they rebuilt it under not Eisenhower, the president before him, Truman. And so there's this picture of the inside that there's no floors. You could see it all inside, like there was there's nothing in there, and there is people working on the ground level, and over to the right there is somebody who's just standing there, but is actually you could see through them.
Well, they say that Lincoln's been there.
Yeah, I would believe it. Absolutely. Absolutely, I believe it 100%.
Because he had some unfinished business.
Yeah, and I think he really loved it, and I think I mean the one who never really, the one who got the worst deal out of everything. And I know being assassinated is horrible, but I think Mary Todd Lincoln, she wasn't liked as first lady. The people adored Lincoln, but they didn't care for Mary Todd. And then after he died, it just that became even more strained almost everywhere, universally with her, and that included her own child. So it's really a shame but my heart actually breaks for her because she had so much tragedy in her life because she lost so much.
Did she lose 2 boys too?
Yep, absolutely. And then her husband. And I feel like that I think people could have been a little bit more understanding about that. I mean, obviously we weren't there. Well, you may have been, Greg, but we weren't. I mean, I wasn't there.
I was about 6 months late. Okay.
I was almost there. So yeah.
So I think it's 9:23, and if anybody has any pending questions that they want to make sure they ask, please put it in the comment section, because we're going to have Mr. Bakun out of here very shortly.
And please, for sure. And please come and watch me over at Ghostbox Radio with Greg Bakun on Facebook for my nightly show. As we end the week, we're going to be talking about the Amityville horror. We're going to be talking about, because we had Joe Frankie on this week, talking about Amityville from a Warren perspective, but we wanted to get people's take on it. We got some news stories that we'll read. We'll just kind of ease into the weekend and just, it's a little bit more lighthearted. Adam and I do a lot of bantering back and forth. So, it's really fun. It's really good.
Part of the problem is that I'm going to try to get my show staying at 8:00, because I usually start at 9:00 on Fridays, as you know.
Yeah.
And that's when you come on.
Yeah.
And so I can't watch both at the same time.
No, you can't.
Right. I'm not that good.
Well, I mean, you just can't. You just can't do everything at once. No.
But yeah. It's been an awesome pleasure to have you on here again.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
If we ever get an opportunity, if you get a wild hair, let's get together. We can get together on my end on StreamYard, and we could do like the same thing we do on Wednesday nights when you're around.
Absolutely, yeah. No, there's we really want to we haven't done anything in a while, Greg.
Right.
May I answer Julianne's question real fast? Anything recommend in connecting with my aliens?
Which one is it?
It's I mean, what I'm seeing.
Okay, I see it.
And that's just in my opinion. You say you're aliens. It seems like you should already have that link then, in my opinion. But I everything is intention, and I just called them in. I literally call them in like I would for spirit. But I mean, the thing that I would hope that you or anyone who wants to try it would do is remember that how what's the best way to protect yourself. And I don't know if I have the answer for that, because I don't think that I protected myself very well the last time, and it's taken about a year to get back on track. So anyone who wants to do any of this, including spirit communication, just remember, folks, that it's it's not a ride at the Haunted Mansion at Walt Disney World where you're done and you get off and you're done. This is something that could stay with you for a very, very, very long time if you're not careful.
A real thing.
Yeah.
And next month, well, you go ahead. You mention everything you want to mention. All your besides your shows, everything that you're doing, and
Sure. I just put well, at least my chat, it looks like that my YouTube channel, that's in my Ghost Box Radio with Greg Bakun. I put that in my chat for if anyone wants to see any of those videos. And really, the thing is, please come out, watch Ghost Box Radio. Monday through Friday it starts at 10:05 on the Facebook page. If you want to listen on the radio, it's KTNF AM 950, and it streams. You can listen to it streaming live on am950radio.com. So it's a real honor to be able to do it, and I'm enjoying every second of it. I really do love it.
that's awesome. You've always been to me the true professional in the paranormal as far as your shows and everything else is concerned. So I would leave it at that and say, hey, whenever we can get together, we will. And I want to thank you for being here tonight. You're an awesome guest. And the next time we get together, we'll go ahead and dwell a little deeper.
That sounds great, Greg. And we'll have to get you on. We'll get you on my show.
Okay. And to everybody in the chat, thank you very much for being here. It was a great show. I'm sure that a lot of people learned a lot tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and end it, and we'll just talk for a minute, and then you'll be gone.
Sounds good.
Okay, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and end it. Good night.